So have you have you ever seen the ISC videos before where we do QA?
Yes.
What did you think about previous QA videos?
Yeah, it's been really cool, and it's been nice that the user have been able to highlight what QA does.
Have you ever looked at the comments or anything?
I think the comments were a bit interesting, to say the least.
Are you saying people don't like QA videos?
I'm not saying that.
Some do, some would, for sure, yeah.
Do you hope people like this video?
I hope so. I hope they enjoy the upcoming content that's coming. It's been a long road to 3.18, but I'm sure people are really going to enjoy all the new content that's coming.
The difference between embedded QA and general QA is that we work closely with the development teams.
We provide direct feedback to locations and features that they are working on.
So for me, that's the lighting team and the interactables team.
I work hand in hand with the various different content teams, so Sandbox 1, 2, EUL1, EUL2.
Because the lighting team is kind of one of the teams that work on things right at the end. It's usually the case where I'm kind of jumping on a location just before the rest of the QA department hop on it.
We look out for specifically art-related issues. That could be things like missing materials, replace me textures. With a normal QA, they would have to put in a bug report, it gets sent off to production, and they send it over to the appropriate artist or designer. Whereas for me, I'm essentially cutting out the middleman. I can just directly go to a developer or an artist or designer and say, hey, I've noticed this issue, is this intended? Or just giving them real-time feedback and bugs.
The idea is that we find and iron out any of the issues before it is delivered directly to the QA department, so they can then get it out to the the backers and the wider public.
Right now I'm working on the IAE halls. The Drake Interplanetary are kind of taken hold this year. They're running the show. Theme-wise, it's very different. That's not just sort of simple color changes, it's kind of the overall feel of the event. The floor layouts have also changed, so the lights that are going to be lighting up the ships are going to be all different. Basically, I need to make sure that, well, the events aren't dark to begin with, lighting the ships on display correctly. The various environment probes around the area are reacting correctly to their environment. Color grades working correctly, the atmospheric fog that's placed in the area by the team is present and reacting to lights properly. I think the lighting team have done a great job. I think the environment teams in general have done a great job, but because I sort of am speaking for the lighting team, I really like what they've done. Yeah, looks awesome.
Because we've had a bit extra time, we've been able to actually bring out these outposts. They weren't initially meant to come out for 3.18. When 3.17 came out, we had just initially 5 derelict outposts on Microtech, but now we're timesing that by 7, so when 3.18 rolls out, there should be 35 derelict outposts, 10 on Microtech, 10 on Hurston, and between 1 to 6 on various different moons throughout the Stanton system. Well, the players can go through and explore the environment. They can look for loot boxes, so they can get a munch or maybe find a multi-tool or just things that they could sell at kiosks. There are also delivery missions as well, similar to the ones that you've seen in 3.17, where the players will go to a derelict outpost, which is occupied by Ninetails, take them out, get the delivery box, and deliver it to wherever it needs to go. So some of the issues that we've seen so far with the derelict outpost are related to AI. As you might have seen in CitizenCon, there have been some updates to the combat AI, and it's kind of slowly making its way into the PU. So there's a few little teething issues there just to make sure that the AI are actually working correctly within the derelict outpost on the planets and hopefully not walking into walls. Because 3.18 is got a lot of content coming, with say like PES, for instance, it has been a bit more of a challenging release, just because obviously the new issues that are coming up because of PES, but I think that the teams are tackling it as quickly as they possibly can. We're thankful that we're getting the extra time to kind of really flesh it out and make sure that it's a quality release for the players.
Currently, I am working on the new rest stop stations that are going to be found in the Pyro system once we release that in the upcoming 4.0 patch. Because these stations are lawless and there's going to be no like green zones to govern your behavior on the stations, we're going over it just to make sure that the locations are fun for the backers to engage in combat. So we've been covering stuff like sniping spots, combat routes, balance against facing AI, also identifying issues, potential issues with the environment that might hinder the gameplay experience, such as potential issues with lighting and fog, potential bottlenecks and choke points in the station layout that might cause problems for players and end up getting bottlenecked by another hostile group. We found some issues with some of the environmental puzzles currently. There's a bit of desync. If I was to disable, say, an electronic trap, it would not show up for the other player. So we've been working, like getting some debug and stuff to make sure that the devs are fully aware of what the issue is and they can rectify this before a wider release. There's a dramatic difference between these stations and the ones that are found in the Stanton system. They're very dark and oppressive in nature, very run down, and they offer a lot more gameplay opportunities for players and also a lot more possibilities and overall experience that the current rest stops just are not capable to cater to.
What I want to try to emphasize to the community is just how important and respected QA is within CIG. We're constantly looking out for issues and ensuring that the quality of the game is as high a standard as possible.
Once we've been through a stretch and we've got a new patch out to see how the backers are responding to the new content and to see how they're enjoying it, it's always a highlight to see just how many people enjoy what we're doing.
I'm sure there's people out there, some of our backers that would want to get into this industry, and the QA is a good
Entry-level position.
entry-level position. Yeah,
Look right into this camera and say, "We're hiring."
we're hiring.
That's it.
Quality assurance teams are an essential element of any video games development, and embedding them right there into the pits next to the designers, next to the artists, next to the programmers allows for a synchronicity of purpose and an acknowledgement of necessity that's been a hallmark of Star Citizen's development for years. And while technical teams continue to put Alpha 3.18 through its paces ahead of its now scheduled December release, the delay from its original publish has provided a number of limited opportunities to content teams to afford them chances they might not otherwise have been able to utilize. And for members of the EU Sandbox 1 team, that means getting to continue an initiative started earlier this year to research community-created racetracks in the Stanton system and find new ways to incorporate them officially into the very fabric of the persistent universe.
So the YELA racetrack was taken inspiration from one of the racetracks built by the community, which was the Grim Prospects racetrack on the Star Citizen Racing Discord, I believe. So there are some on there that are exact. We've taken, direct copies of those tracks, but the YELA one is a little bit different because we've moved it slightly away from Grimhex into an adjacent asteroid field. So our designer in DE, Antoine Fauville, he's taken, a course and he's made it for the players to play. I think it's just really nice to have more space POIs. We have, attractions like Grimhex, but we need more in the surrounding vicinity. So, it might be a case of where you're just flying through the asteroid ring in YELA, trying to get to the planet's surface, and you come across something like this. And we've really built up the structures with refinery modules and cargo modules that we've used before. So it's a nice point of interest, and also it looks cool. We're using lots of the natural formations of the rocks themselves and also asteroid tethers and stuff like that that are already in the game. Those are our natural checkpoints for the race. I think it's really cool that we have a community that we can take inspiration from and build something of our own. As much as we play test, as much as we spend time in the engine, the players are the ones who are spending hours and hours refining their skills and thinking of new activities to do. So for example, with the Grim Prospects racetrack, it was quite bare, they were just racing around a pre-memorized route, going around all of these asteroids. But now we can really delineate that race, and we can art it up and make it look pretty as well, so people have more memorable moments to talk about.
From YELA, named for the oldest of 3 siblings featured in the now classic 24th century children's morality tale A Gift for Baba, which you can read in its entirety on the robertspaceindustriescom website, shout out to the narrative team, we move to EUTERPE, named for the ancient Greek muse of music, the smallest and perhaps most barren of Microtech's 3 moons.
What I'm currently working on now is the racing track on EUTERPE. It's called Icebreaker. I believe it was actually from the community originally. And what we did is we took that initial barebone structure and we basically created, using the Microtech prefabs and assets, is we actually created like a little research facility base. We've kept the path as close as we could to the initial community racetrack, but what we've done is we've added bits of flavour in from structures to fly past, structures to fly under, and then we've done a bit of a lighting pass to kind of help navigate the player around the space, but without feeling like the intention beforehand was meant to be for racing. It was meant to be this kind of large open front sea kind of facility with like long struts coming out and kind of good. There's good vantage points as well for like when the players come together, that we have little landing pad spots that where you could group up, get together, you could watch your teammates flying around, trying to beat one another kind of competitively. On EUTERPE, there's not actually tons of POIs, and I think, to be honest, this new space, this new location is going to be one of the key locations on this moon.
Now, these 2 new racetracks on YELA and EUTERPE make up only 1/3 of the community creations being canonized in the upcoming Alpha 318. And we're going to be showcasing even more being created by our partners at Turbulent on tomorrow's Star Citizen Live. But before we leave the topic this week, here's a brief visual teaser of EU Sandbox 1's 3rd track this patch on the surface of ArcCorp on the outskirts of Area 18. So what did we learn this week? Well, we learned that like the developers sitting beside them, embedded QA are often found working on patches for next week, next month, and next year all at the same time. That the number of outposts and racetracks in the standard system are expected to explode in the upcoming Alpha 318. And that we're always going to look to the community for inspiration when it comes time to add additional content to the Precision universe. Now, don't forget that tomorrow we'll be talking with our friends at Turbulent about even more community racetracks coming online in Alpha 318. And then, of course, next week is the start of our annual Intergalactic Aerospace Expo 2952, where almost every single ship and vehicle in the Star Citizen universe gets its moment to shine. You can learn all about it up on the robertspaceindustriescom website. For Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee, and we'll see you all here next week.